Hello and welcome to the International Daily Roundup by People's Dispatch, where we bring you some of the major news developments from across the world. Our headlines: protests in the US continue, police building in Minneapolis set on fire. South African airline workers call for resignation of Air CEO. 15 years on, Argentinian reproductive rights movement continues its struggle. We begin with an update on the situation in Minneapolis in the United States, where protests are continuing following the murder of George Floyd. On the third day of the protests, one of the offices of the city police was stormed by protesters. This is May 28th. The office was subsequently set on fire. The building was the office of the 3rd Precinct of the Minneapolis Police. The precinct office was a major site of protest by the residents and is the one in which the 4 police officers accused of Floyd's murder were serving. While the city administration fired the 4 officers and initiated a federal investigation, the accused are yet to be indicted. Floyd's family and the protesters have been demanding that they be charged with murder. Hundreds of protesters had laid siege to the police building on May 27th. The protesters were met with violent repression involving tear gas, batons and rubber bullets. Later, reports emerged of a protester found dead with a gunshot injury under unexplained circumstances. All of this only intensified the protest at the precinct building. Meanwhile, protests are also occurring across the United States in various cities in solidarity with the family of Floyd and also in protest against other killings. George Floyd was murdered on May 25th by police officers as they arrested him. One of the officers knelt on his neck for nearly 5 minutes. Floyd died of suffocation. South African trade union NUMSA alleged that the domestic airline Air has not paid its workers their wages for the month of May. In a statement released earlier this week, NUMSA also stated that the management forced the workers to use up their annual leave in exchange for wages. The union also believes that the move to encourage workers to forsake their leave was to cut down on leave dues from the retrenchment packages. Retrenchment notices were already served to workers by Air much before the pandemic-related lockdown began. Air was placed on business rescue earlier this month after facing a severe financial crisis. It is the sole owner of Kulula.com, a major budget airline service, and has a franchise to operate British Airways on domestic routes. Business Rescue puts a company under the control of government-appointed experts called Business Rescue Practitioners or BRPs. They are tasked with a turnaround strategy to avoid liquidation. BRPs have become a major contention in South Africa, which unions see to be anti-worker and neoliberal. In the case of Air, the BRPs have taken the decision to alter the terms and conditions of employment of the workers. They have also unilaterally scrapped many benefits which were laid out in the collective agreement. In our next story, on May 28th, on the International Day of Action for Women's Health, the National Campaign for the Right to Legal, Safe and Free Abortion in Argentina celebrated its 15th anniversary. On the occasion, the movement called on citizens to mobilize virtually, demanding legalization of this integral human right. The movement has been in the forefront of the struggle for abortion rights in the country. Tens of thousands of women, queer and non-binary people took part in the virtual protest with green scarves, which represents the feminist struggle for legal abortion. They shared their messages and photos with green scarves on social media. They were demanding the approval of the voluntary termination of pregnancy bill. Several political leaders, social activists, human rights organizations, women and LGBTQI movements also participated. Throughout the day, the movement held several conferences, interviews and artistic performances. This year, with a progressive president in power, legal abortion seems within reach in Argentina. In a session in the National Assembly on March 1st, President Alberto Fernandez announced that he would present a bill to decriminalize abortion in the country. For the first time in history, a head of state advocated the right to abortion. His announcement was celebrated by women, the LGBTQI community and feminist movements and organizations. They consider it a significant breakthrough for the long-demanded right to abortion in the country. In our In Focus section, we bring you an interview with Indian journalist Bhasha Singh, who has been reporting on the exodus of migrants in India. Hundreds of thousands of migrants have been leaving big cities following the lockdown. The workers say they have been abandoned by the government. Here's what she had to say. Thank you so much, Bhasha, for joining us. So you've been traveling in Uttar Pradesh for the past couple of days. You've talked to a lot of the migrants who are continuing to leave the big cities to their homes where they hope that they'll be able to survive. You've also talked to migrants who have traveled by train. So could you tell us what is the overwhelming feeling among the people who are leaving the big cities?
Basically, it's very disheartening, and it was across from Delhi to the Lucknow or to the rest of the places, Aligarh, everywhere. Just in one line, they were saying that there is no government. The government has left us. In Hindi, they were saying कि हमें लावारिस कर दिया. That means that they have been orphaned by the government. And so second thing, which was very painful, that they were crying and they were telling that they are workers. They went to have a better life. They are not beggars. And they were forced to leave the capital, either it's Delhi or it's Surat or it's Bangalore, everywhere, because they were treated as a beggars. There was no respect for them. And the very important point they were making, that they waited for the government. It is not like this that the day Prime Minister Narendra Modi announced the lockdown, immediately they started moving back to their homes. It took 50 days, 40 days, 45 days, 55 days, and still they are walking. So they said that they believe that something will be done for them. And when they started feeling that these cities don't belong to them, they don't have ration cards, even those who have ration cards, they were not getting it. And the most horrible thing about the kids, everyone was traveling with their small children. And they were saying that the government is just offering some rice, some dal, but they are not thinking about the kids, how they are going to feed them. And to all of them, the fear of dying with starvation, dying from the hunger, was the biggest challenge for them. They said that we will not die from the corona, I don't know, but before that we will die from the hunger, and the deaths have started. And those who were traveling with the trains, they said that we spent so much money, we waited for the government, and when they started, in many cases they were saying that initially we started walking, then the police stopped them, and then they asked them to go back and there will be trains. So there were many cases where they went back, just believing in the promise of the government that the trains will be there and some facilities will be there. And the narration of those people who travel in the trains, if you just hear, you will not believe that India is in 2020, where they are saying that toilets were horrible, there was no water, and there was no food. They traveled for more than 20 hours without any basic facility. And they said that we survived, it's a miracle. Otherwise, the whole system was as if they were waiting that we should die. And one lady said that basically it's a planning by the people in the power to kill us. They don't want to see us. So those were the very heartbreaking narrations which were coming out. And they're entirely hopeless. The whole democratic setup and the government has made them that nobody is there. Only there's some hope that they will go back to their village and they will get some support. When I asked them that there also you will have to face the quarantine for 14 days, they are saying that they will be kept. So they will say, they are saying that, okay, we have survived so long, we survived for the 50 days. And even if we die in the quarantine, it will be near our villages. So at least somebody will be there to do the last rites. If we die in the city, who is there? Nobody so far has come out to. So these are a different kind of reactions and responses, which was overwhelmed. Everywhere it was. You can't name that. We can't measure the degree of their pain.
Right. And could you talk a bit about the situation, especially of those migrants who are traveling by road or who are walking? So, were
Yeah.
there any kind of facilities at all? How did they manage in this summer heat? Could you talk a bit about how they were traveling?
Yeah. So you see that now all the roads are highways. There are flyovers. So, and there's not a single tree on the highways. So it's so torturous for them to travel on the highways, and there's no other way. And so they opted to walk in the night. So generally they are walking throughout the night, and whenever in the day they get some kind of a shade, they are lying down there. And in many places they started walking, and then it was very difficult. Police was beating them. Then they collected, then they had some kind of money. And I've seen many flooded in autos, in small trucks. They promised that whenever they reach to their villages, they will be paying the money. So that's how it is going on, because it's we can't say in the daylight, if you see, you will not find them in the walking, because it's almost impossible for them to walk, but still in small groups, and they are not now walking on the highways because they know that the police, only one work the Indian state is doing, either it's Yogi government or the Delhi government, Delhi police, they don't want to see them on the roads. They want to avoid that. They should not become visible, they should not become a news. So they themselves will tell that you go down, don't opt for the main road, you go by the lanes, and people are opting for that. So a distance of 500 kilometers for a migrant worker has become a distance of 600 or 700 kilometers. So the first thing, that the Indian state is just visible in form of police, which is beating them, which is taking a bribe also. I have seen from the truck drivers who are carrying the migrant workers, and many truck drivers, the migrant workers were also saying that they came as a god. They helped them, though they were beaten severely. In UP, the police is beating the truck drivers, the auto drivers very mercilessly. But still, those truck drivers, when I had a word with them, they were not ready to talk on the camera because they were so afraid. But they said that I can't see them dying on the road. So I thought that, okay, if I can carry you to the 50 kilometers, I am able to carry you to the 100 kilometers, then I will help you like that. And from Delhi and other places also. This is one thing. And the other phenomena, which is very strange, that you will find multiple private bus operators who are charging. I had a word with a few migrant workers who are staying in Delhi, in Mayur Vihar area. They had a bus for 1,30,000. 30 of them asked the money, taken money on the loan, somehow they managed. And then they traveled, they had that bus, and they were going to the Bihar.
Okay.
So this is a very strange situation. The government knows that the private buses are going. Definitely those buses, many of them, I had a word with the operators. They said that we are getting the e-passes. So my question is that when the private buses are operating, why the hell the government buses are not operating, not taking the migrants to their homes? Okay. So you will find that they are going by cycles. A lot of migrant workers are going by cycles. We had just one story of the Jyoti who traveled. She cycled from national capital Gurgaon to Bihar. And you will find that there are hundreds of them going in groups. They are cycling in the night, and everyone has taken loan, either second-hand bicycle like the Jyoti or many other, which footage NewsClick has also shown when I covered them. So you will find that everyone, it's almost, they are desperate that they want to go back. So who, if they are staying in group in the slums or in the bastis, then they are hiring private buses, and huge number of private buses throughout the highways, flooded with the migrant workers, with no food and with no water. And the best part is that the villagers, which are staying at a little distance from the highways, they saw for 1 or 2 days that these are going and it's in a very terrible condition. They themselves organized for the langars. They are making puris, parathas, even providing milk to the children, kids. So that shows that finally those who are surviving is because of these Indian citizens who came for the help when the Indian state is completely out of the picture. Right. They just left because they could have made. On the way, they have made the shelters for the police. Police is staying in the shelters, that is covered, there's a water, but the migrant worker can't go there, they are not offering them anything. So this is the condition till now, which I find.
That's all we have in this episode of the International Daily Roundup. We'll be back on Monday with news from around the world. Until then, keep watching People's Dispatch. Cantar que vamos a triunfar.